Welcome to the April edition of Northeast Journal. Coming up in the next half hour, we'll meet a Mahtomedi couple who is raising money to build a playground in memory of their son. We'll find out how the White Bear Lake community raised money for a food shelf in a unique way. And we'll spend some time with the Lake Elmo Public Works Department. All that and more is straight ahead on Northeast Journal. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the April edition of Northeast Journal. I'm your host, Joe Cullen. Every month on Northeast Journal, we give you an inside look at the people and places that make up the northeast section of the Twin Cities. The White Bear Area Emergency Food Shelf has served the community since 1977. They can't do it without financial support, though, so that's why area residents braved the cold to raise money recently for the food shelf. Here's the story.
Absolutely, it's fabulous out here. We can't get more Minnesotan than golfing on the lake. Happy Carnival!
Happy Carnival! It's a Minnesota tradition, right? We all are a masochist. We're proud about how cold it gets here. 2 weeks ago, we were worried about the thickness of the ice. I don't know what it is today, but it's probably about 30 inches. And so we're here to celebrate winter and get outside because we've all been huddled away because it was so cold last week, and have a little fun in the winter.
Well, we're the Pirates of White Bear Lake. And we're here just representing Hallberg Engineering.
The people of the White Bear area community are crazy generous. Just a great group of people who really support anyone who's struggling.
We need to be helpful to our customers, helpful to our employees, but also helpful to the community. So it really wasn't much of a thought when we were approached to help.
Before you know it, the weather will finally be nice enough to start doing some planting in our gardens. Did you know you can check out free seeds from the library, just like you would a book? Let's visit the White Bear Lake Library to find out more.
There are certain things you expect to see in a library. Books, movies, computers. But seeds? Sure enough, you'll find a new seed library at the Ramsey County Library Branch in White Bear Lake. Horticulturist Pam Frink read about other states that have seed libraries and thought White Bear Lake should have one too.
I thought it would be a great way for the community to be involved with gardening and to understand. Kids nowadays, I have a hard time knowing where their food comes from. It just appears and they don't really understand how it grows and whatnot. And this is right back at the basics, planting seeds, which is the very way you start food. And I was hoping that would help spread that word about gardening and plants.
Visitors to the seed library can look through a catalog to see what's available and then sign their name to check out some seeds.
The seeds are grouped into 3 categories. The green ones are the easy to save seeds. The blue is the medium to save seeds, and the yellow are difficult to save seeds. And it doesn't have anything to do with how hard it is to grow the plant. It has to do with how hard or easy it is to save seeds and make sure they don't get cross-pollinated by a different variety of the same type of plant.
You then take your seeds home, plant them, and enjoy the harvest.
Grow those seeds during the summer and then save some of the fruit and save the seeds from those, like from your tomatoes or your peppers, and then bring them back to the library. Because it won't, that's the whole point, is that it's self-sufficient. So people need to save their seeds and bring them back so that next season we can hand out those seeds to other people.
Frink says the easiest seeds to save come from lettuce, peas, tomatoes, and sweet peppers. So far, she's heard nothing but positive feedback from patrons of the Seed Library.
A lot of people don't know what it really is to begin with because it's kind of a new concept here in Minnesota. But once they find out what it is, they think it's a great thing. And I'm hoping that as word spreads, there'll be more and more people who will use the library and then also bring back seeds so that we can continue on offering lots of different varieties of tomatoes and peppers and whatnot.
You can check out seeds at the library in downtown White Bear Lake.
It's time for a short break. When we come back on Northeast Journal, we'll meet a Mahtomedi couple who is hoping to build a playground in memory of their son.
Hey Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry, I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
Welcome back to Northeast Journal. Aaron's Playground is an initiative to build a memorial playground in Mahtomedi. With me today to talk about Aaron's Playground is Craig and Becky Markovitz. And Craig and Becky, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to join me today on Northeast Journal.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Joe.
And as I think I mentioned earlier, you both reside in Mahtomedi, and that's actually how I first became aware of the two of you. I do the cable casting for the Mahtomedi City Council meetings, and you two attended a recent meeting during the public comment time to talk about Aaron's Playground. So can you give me a little bit of background, just kind of your story and kind of how we got to this point?
Absolutely. So Becky and I lived previously in the Twin Cities. We met at the University of Minnesota during graduate school. We moved away for a few years. We were living abroad in Germany. My work took us there. And we moved back just recently in August. So we are really brand new members of the Mahtomedi community, having bought a townhouse in the Ledgestone community in October. So we're here to talk about this playground, but we're really here to talk about our son, Aaron. When we moved back in August, Aaron was my wife was still pregnant with Aaron. She was 6 months pregnant at the time. We were really excited. You know, the Mahtomedi community is very well known for its school district, for being a nice, small community, and we were excited to become a part of it and to have Aaron be a part of it. So unfortunately, within a couple weeks after we moved back, Becky was diagnosed with high blood pressure during her pregnancy, which then developed into preeclampsia, which is a severe disease that's the only cure is actually delivering the baby. So she was put on bed rest in the hospital for a few weeks, at which point Aaron was born. He was born nearly 3 months premature, but the doctors decided it was in the best interest of her health and Aaron's health to deliver him early. So he was born at what we like to say, small but mighty 2 pounds, 3 ounces. Even though he was born at the 29-week gestational age, he still, according to all the statistics, should have been fine. He was taken to the NICU right away at St. Paul Children's Hospital, where he was supposed to spend time getting healthy, growing, becoming stronger, being able to breathe on his own. And we visited him every day in the hospital. Almost every day we got a chance to hold him, which was just amazing. He really was an amazing child. Unfortunately, his biggest issue was his lungs. So that's the last organ to develop in infants. So he was put on a mechanical respirator, a ventilator, which is pretty common for babies born that premature. While it helps him breathe and get oxygen to his body, at the same time it's not natural, and it ended up causing irreparable damage to his lungs. So Aaron lived for exactly 7 weeks before passing away while we held him in our arms on October 15th of this past year. So, while obviously we're heartbroken over the whole thing, we don't want his legacy to be that he was born premature, that he lived in the NICU his whole life, that he was only with us for 7 weeks. We want his legacy to be something more, to be about the joy he brought us, the joy he brought his grandparents, his aunts and uncles, friends that visited him in the hospital. The doctors and nurses all had amazing stories and experiences with him. We want that joy to be really Aaron's legacy. And that's why we want to build this playground for him and give back to the community that unfortunately Aaron never got to be a real part of.
Yeah, I mean, I so appreciate you guys, sharing that story. I'm sure it's, probably not easy each time to share that. And, how did you decide then to, it's such a gift. I mean, no one would blame you if you kind of, took a long time to, probably agree, but, it takes a lot to share that story and put yourself out there. That's even what struck me when you guys were at the council meeting, that, this isn't something that happened, years ago, or something that this is still pretty fresh. What made you decide that this is the way we want to honor Aaron and to, put in this thing in the community, which again is remarkable because you're both fairly new to the community too. What made you come to that decision?
Yeah, I think when Aaron was born, we just had so much love for him, and I think that's the biggest driver of this project. It's just we were overwhelmed with how much love we could possibly possess, and we wanted to do something with it, because after he was gone, there was nowhere to direct that love anymore. And we thought really the best way was to do something for the community, to do something where everybody could benefit from the love that we had for him, the love that he had for us, and just the joy that he brought everybody.
And how did you decide? Now, I understand, where is the park that you've chosen?
Yeah, so we've been in discussion with the Mahtomedi government, and we've decided to build it in Southwest Park on Long Lake Road. Personally, it's great for us because we live just down the road, but also it's the perfect park for it. The park has beautiful baseball diamonds, has soccer fields, and has one small slide right in the middle.
One tiny little, I guess you could call it a playground, but yeah, it is just a small slide that is really only big enough for 1 or 2 toddlers. And so we wanted to make something a lot bigger.
Well, I'm sure, it's probably a fairly well-used area, especially if you have the, baseball diamonds and stuff. You have times where, kids are there playing, or the siblings are there while the other kids are playing. And yeah, if there's not much to do, I'm sure, it's filling a need anyway, but then to have it, in such an honoring way. And, what kind of steps do you have to take to start this? I wouldn't even know where to begin. I mean, did you just contact the city first, or how do you even research something like this?
We didn't know for a while. We spent a lot of time trying to figure that out. We eventually got in contact with Bob Goebel from the Public Works of Mahtomedi, and he met with us and was very willing to do whatever he could to help. So from that first meeting, he's connected us with the city council, as you mentioned, that we got a chance to present in front of them and the mayor, and got their support. And we've just been trying to do whatever we can to spread the word since then. So we've discussed that we will be donating this money to the city, and the city then will help us with all the steps that they normally go through to get the playground built. So taking the bid process, figuring out all the safety aspects, and going from there. So as of now, we're thinking that we're going to spend all of 2019 fundraising, with the hopes of purchasing equipment towards the end of this calendar year, and then building, likely through a community build, the beginning part, the early part of 2020.
Okay. And I know just from the research I did, you guys have a website, aaronsplayground.org, I believe.
Right.
That's right.
And on there you can learn everything we've been talking about. And also I know you guys have links for, a place where people could donate just right online. It's kind of the nice thing right now, things are a little easier than I'm sure they would have been, 20, 30 years ago to have these places where we can all donate. What kind of support are you seeing from the community? I mean, I'm sure it's one thing to, have some family or friends that know you guys, but are you finding people that don't even know you that are getting on board with this?
Definitely. Yeah, so we've been fundraising since mid-January. So as of now, towards the end of March, it's been about 2 months. We've managed to raise $27,000 already. I'd say the majority of that so far has been family, friends, and connections from there. But now we're really focusing on the local communities in White Bear Lake, Mahtomedi, and trying to spread the word beyond people that we know that will be able to see the full benefit of something like this in our community here. So, as you mentioned, we have a GoFundMe that's linked on our website, aaronsplayground.org. We've also set up a fund with the Greater White Bear Lake Community Foundation. They are accepting tax-deductible donations on our behalf, and a lot of people in the area have already taken advantage of that. And we've seen a lot of support from them in helping spread the word, and opportunities like this on your show to be able to speak directly to our community here and spread the word is really appreciated.
Well, yeah, like you mentioned, it's not just Mahtomedi that this, helps impact, the surrounding communities. And I know as a parent myself, especially when my son was younger, always looking for new parks and stuff. And we do have, I know of another one in North St. Paul in the area that's, similar, that a family wanted to put up in honor of their child. And, there was something different about being there, knowing that, the love and time and the fundraising that, went into that. Obviously, right now you're so working with just, getting this up and running, but have you thought about, what it's probably going to feel like the day that, let's say the city has a ribbon cutting or something like that first day when, kids are released onto it and you see the kids playing there? I'm sure that'll be a pretty emotional day for everybody.
Absolutely, it will be really emotional.
Just thinking about it now.
Yeah.
It's making it emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like you said too, I mean, I'm sure the city, I know from a fact from being there for that meeting, you could tell, I mean, they were, the mayor and council, feeling, I think, emotional hearing the story. And, it's not every day that, somebody's coming to them to, want to do something to help and, make the city better, but also doing it for such a worthwhile thing, honoring the, life of your young son. And again, that's aaronsplayground.org. And I assume too, I noticed you guys even on Facebook have a page for that too, where you've been offering updates and, looks like you're getting some other coverage and stuff too. So hopefully keep getting that word out and more people will get involved. And
definitely. And as well as we're in the planning stage now for a few events. Unfortunately, I don't have any details that I can share with your viewership at this point, but we're thinking about doing some events such as a bike ride or a gala towards the end of the year where we can get larger groups of people together to share obviously about the playground and try to raise money, but also just to share Aaron's story. And really that's what all of this is about. We've never gone through anything like this. Luckily, most people don't have to go through something like this. But at the same time, we want to share the story of that something like this can happen, and specifically about Aaron, because we want, not many people got to meet him, unfortunately, and we want people to know him. We want people to know the amazing child that we had.
Well, I think, it's just an amazing thing, and the way you're honoring him and doing this. And, I know it's not, as much as you guys have, I'm sure, already told us a few times, I'm sure maybe in some ways doesn't get easier, but I appreciate the, time you're taking to do this, and so appreciate it. And I really, wish you both the best of luck with this, and hopefully we can get out there and do some coverage once it comes up, and even with the community getting involved in the building and everything, it'll be, I think, exciting for the community, and the legacy you'll leave with that park being there for many, many years.
Yes.
So again, that's aaronsplayground.org is probably the best place for people to go and
Definitely.
get some information. And Craig and Becky, I want to thank you so much for coming
today
and sharing your story.
Yes,
thank you, Joe. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And it's time for another short break. We'll be right back with more of Northeast Journal in just a minute.
Did you go tanning? You're getting so tan. We need some sun.
Protect yourself. Protect your friends. Stop tanning. Learn more at spotskincancer.org.
Welcome back to Northeast Journal. The Lake Elmo Public Works Department employees are always busy, but this winter was an especially crazy time with the record snowfalls we received. Producer Mary Klein and photographer Brian Henshin tried to keep up with the Lake Elmo Public Works Department in this report.
The Lake Elmo Public Works Department is a blended staff sharing their duties among a growing city with high expectations. Preferring to fly under the radar, they're overseen by a director who believes their work is best done behind the scenes.
We'd rather do our jobs and do them well. We don't expect a lot of praise at the end of the day, although it's nice to get it once in a while, but we enjoy coming to work and doing our jobs.
Rob Weldon has been with the city since July of 2016.
Matt here has a lot of experience in welding.
Originally from Plum City, Wisconsin, he's been in the business for over 20 years and developed a passion for public service at an early age.
My dad was an employee with the Pierce County Highway Department where I grew up, and my grandfather was involved in public works in small town Wisconsin where I grew up as well. So I was around it my entire life. I've always been involved in public works.
Like many who work in this business, it's the variety that draws them in, including seasonal shifts that require outdoor work year-round. And while other duties require their time, Weldon says the difficult task of snow plowing and doing it well is what many love most about the job.
It is nice to have a little bit of snow too in the wintertime because it's one of the things that I do truly believe with myself, it's drawn me into public works, is plowing snow. You're out there and you're really providing top level service.
In addition to director, the department has 10 full-time employees and a lead worker.
I think I hear a radio. Who gets to pick the music?
Whoever's working out here gets to pick the music.
The crew works well together, and Weldon's personality, he says, is suited well for this line of work.
There's days where, in my position, you can really hunker down in the office and focus on the dotting the I's and crossing the T's, but really a majority of the time, you have to roll the punches because no 2 days are ever alike.
It's almost that time of year again when a White Bear Lake man's love for model railroading becomes a sight for the whole community to see. Let's take a ride on the Big Sandy and Cumberland Garden Railway.
A passion for gardening and a passion for railroading come together beautifully at the Bifolk residence. Frank and Dee Dee Bifolk of White Bear Lake operate the Big Sandy and Cumberland Garden Railway. It combines Dee Dee's love of gardening with Frank's knowledge of railroads. After many years of gardening, Dee Dee decided something was missing from their yard.
I got it in my head that I wanted to do something small out here, actually. You know, and I'm thinking like a 20-foot oval track. You know, I didn't know. Frank's the train guy. So I kind of presented it to him and he kind of took off with it, and before I could stop him from running away with it, it was done.
Frank is a retired locomotive engineer, and he spent a couple of years building the track before feeling a rush to finish it.
I think what prompted us to finally get a train out is a lot of the ladies were finally getting their husbands to go on a walk with the promise that they would see the train. and then they weren't, and they were getting angry. So we, I said, you know, we're here to see the train. Where are you going to have your darn train? You know, so we got my boys to help, and we put everything in and got everything operating finally.
The train has now been running for over 6 years. It took quite a bit of time for Frank to figure out the perfect layout for his creation.
They had no plan. I had to do the way the real railroaders did it, and that was figure out how to go around, under, through, or over. And I spent a lot of time in the driveway just looking in her garden, trying to figure out where I could go where I wouldn't, you know, have to move a lot of plants. And then I just bought some sections of track and eyeballed it, and I marked it all off when I could figure I could go through this bush, this tree, around this plant, and then I picked the track up after I marked it out and laid it down again. And I basically walked it all the way around with just a few pieces, and that gave me an idea what I was going to need for curves and long straight sections and things like that.
Frank explains the layout of the Big Sandy and Cumberland Garden Railway.
In the front yard, the way the railroad's been built, it's fairly minimal. When you get the train out there, there's very few places you can see an entire train. But again, the garden was her focal point, and I didn't want to dominate it, so we kind of accent it with the railroad. Well, and she says, well, if we're going to go through the fence and you're going to go in the backyard, then you build what you want, and then I'll plant relatively to scale, and which is why back here you'll see the 9 bridges, 2 trestles, the river and the waterfall and the 2 lakes and that sort of thing. So so back here it's more the focal point, but of course the garden enhances it tremendously.
The bifolks open the gates to their yard on Sunday afternoons for the public to see their train and garden.
I want people to appreciate nature and the beauty that's there, because I think it's pretty precious to us all over the world.
The Garden Railway is located at the corner of McKnight Road and Cedar Avenue in White Bear Lake.
That's all we have time for on this month's show. Thanks for tuning in, and join us again next month for another edition of Northeast Journal.